Hey, what's going on, y'all? Kevin Brenner, host of the Active Duty Passive Income Podcast. It's 2023. We made it. Uh, and I'm joined by another incredible guest. It's actually a repeat guest. So way back in episode 207, August 16th, 2021, we interviewed, or I interviewed Brent Bowers, and we talked about land. And not just like, we obviously this is a real estate podcast. So we were talking about actual raw land and how you can make massive passive income with raw land through different techniques. And Brent reached out to me and he's like, "Hey man, it's been a while and I have so much like more updates and cool stuff that I think your audience would super dig." And Brent is an Army vet and set up landsharks and it's incredible. And I said, "Come on back, Brent. Come on back. The water's warm for the land shark." So welcome back to the show, dude.
Hey man, it's good to be back on, Kevin. And the water is warm. That's funny. We were just swimming. Me and another fellow land shark, Dan Haberkost, on Monday. He came to town, and I was like, man, not too many places in the country you could be swimming on January, whatever day it was, January 9th.
Mhm.
So yeah, the water was totally warm in Florida.
Yeah, and where in Florida are you?
I'm in Vero Beach, Florida.
Oh, Vero. Okay, cool. Yeah, my in-laws live in Marco Island, so Southwest Florida. We go down there quite often,
Oh, it's
and
beautiful over there.
yeah, it's beautiful. And it's like, oh no, we have to go down in January. Oh no, like, you
You
don't have to
know,
convince me to go to Florida in January, especially South Florida.
It's about the best time to be in Florida because I'll tell you, December, January, February are, I think, our only good 3 months. The rest of those months, man, it's just 100% humidity and just hot.
Yeah,
So I'd rather go somewhere else, if it's not December, January, and February.
yeah, 100%, man. All right, so let's bring this discussion back into perspective. So I would like to, for folks, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't listened to episode 207, I highly recommend go back, like literally stop this podcast now, go back and listen to 207 because Brent drops an incredible amount of knowledge on just the basics of land investing. And there's so much that goes into it. And I remember after having the conversation with you, Brent, like my mind was melted and I actually took action and I started looking into different land deals and things like that. I just find it super interesting. Can
Oh, that's so
you
cool.
can Brent, can you recap for folks just like in 2 minutes kind of maybe what we talked about or just the genesis of land sharks and how you got into it?
Absolutely. I mean, it was probably what we talked about. I didn't actually listen to the episode before we jumped on, but a lot of the reason why I jumped into land and what I was doing with land was because I was uh, I was really trying to get out of the military when I started my land business, and I had to make about $4,500 a month, and that would cover all of my expenses. And it took me about 9 months to hit that. And I was buying raw vacant land at discounts. I was buying it at a discount, and a lot of the stuff was like garbage land. It was not accessible. It was landlocked, or I had to trespass to get to it, or it wasn't buildable. And I was buying and flipping this stuff, and buying and sometimes flipping it via seller financing, where I would hold the financing. And it's funny, one of my first parcels that I ever seller financed, it was 534 a month from 2016 to 2023. They just paid off today. So that's probably a little bit about what I talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to share, more today, the practical steps of what you can do now to start, making a fortune in land while you're serving in the military, while you're serving the military.
Yeah, and this is something I really want to highlight because when people think, oh, you're just flipping, well, you're not. That's not passive income. You're flipping because people think you're flipping houses. So you finding something, you're forcing appreciation and value into it, and then you're selling something. Is that really passive income? But the way you're selling it, that's where the passive income comes in. That's where the stability comes in, and you're selling it specifically through seller finance. So it's got it's a creative finance strategy through the disposition of the asset or selling of the asset that is providing you, the owner of the land, right? You bought it at a discount. The owner of the land, passive income for a long, for multiple years, upwards of, looks like this last deal was what, 8 years, 7 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And that income is coming into you. And by doing that, you're opening up your buyer pool significantly, and you're making the asset so much more sexy, really, because it's so affordable. Like, you can't, it's hard to make land sexy. Either you have to, like, I'd imagine, like, put hey, this land would be great for camping or hunting or a paintball or whatever you want to do, or you can set up a bit, like, whatever. But barring that, like, you have to make it somehow appealing. And the only other way, the only one of the only other levers to pull is to make it affordable. Because then when something's affordable, people can go and look and say, oh man, this land is mine. And they can have that freedom and all of that. So I love, love, love that strategy and compounding. So what'd you say, that deal that just, that note just got paid off in full, which is fabulous. So those people are now the full owners of that land. They can do whatever they want with it. But you were getting $500 a month for that for, gosh, 7 years. Is that right?
Yeah, 534 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the first ones I did. I purchased it for a couple $100 and then had to spend a couple $100 to open the LLC, or actually it was the incorporation backup that owned it. And then there was some outrageous lawn service fees from the city of Fountain, Colorado. So all in all, I think I had about 5,000 something into it, 5,400. And then the buyers, they gave me 5,000 down, so I pretty much was profitable in the like second month that I owned it, because their payment of 534 came in, and this was before I charged interest. I didn't charge any interest for this land. This is before I charged note service fees and documentation fees, and the audience is probably thinking, golly, man, he nickels and dimes people. But here, those are extra little profit bumps that you can get, and I did say, yes, I did say 12% interest. A lot of our land deals we're charging 12% interest today on, and some of these I'm doing 30-year notes
Wow.
where they have the buyer is paying for 30 years for this land. You might think, holy cow, like I don't want to wait 30 years to get my money back. But here's the thing, the banks have it figured out. That's the reason why they're the nicest, prettiest buildings in every single state and every single city of the United States, is because they charge something called compounding interest. So if you look at the average, let's just say $200,000 mortgage at 6% interest, and if someone were to pay that mortgage back for 30 years and never skip a payment, never refinance. And refinancing is the biggest trap you can ever get into, because the first 10 years is pretty much interest only.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone never ever refinances and they pay that $1,200 a month for 30 years, they pay back over $430,000. They only borrowed 200. So they're paying back more in interest than what they borrowed. So that's kind of the method we're using for our land deals. And a lot of people ask, well, do you have something called a early payoff or
Mm-hmm.
fee, or a, what is it? What do they call it? There's another word
Yeah,
for it.
prepayment penalty.
Thank you. Prepayment penalty. My head is like pounding. So you might have to help me with this, Kevin. You charge prepayment penalties. Heck no, I don't charge prepayment penalties. Why would I encourage someone not to pay me off sooner? Because the sooner I can get my money, the velocity of money, I can keep that money moving. And a lot of times these people are not going to finance this for 30 years. They might only finance it for 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 years, when, remember, I said 10 years is interest only, and then they'll build on it. And they'll go and reach out to their local bank and say, hey, I'd love to build this, cabin, or for that
Mm-hmm.
particular land deal I just talked about, they're putting a manufactured home on it, a beautiful manufactured home, and they're borrowing from the bank. So a lot of times the bank will pay you off because they don't want a junior lien. They want to be the number one position. So a lot of times after like 5 or 6 years, we'll get paid off for these land notes and get all of our profit and move to the next one. So yeah, I love the passive income.
Yeah, and just to put things more into perspective for folks listening to this, so going back to the deal and just looking at those numbers, you had this for 7 years, this deal, right?
You got
And,
it.
and that's 84 months at $534 a month. That's about $45,000, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's just math. Numbers don't lie. So you got $45,000 of passive income that has come into you like clockwork, and your all-in expense on this was about $5,500.
Yep.
but you got a $5,000 down payment
Yep.
from the buyer. So that kind of washed out most of that. So you're all in when you look at this, and we're simplifying things obviously, but we're talking maybe $500 to $1,000 that you're in, and you made $45,000 over the
Yeah.
course of 7 years. Guys, that is awesome. Like, talk about a 45x equity multiple, pretty much. Well, that's not really an equity multiple because it's not how much the land is worth. But point is, 45x returns on your money is pretty dang good. So that right there, I think, is commendable and awesome. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, you do one of these a month
mhm,
for 10 months straight, and you're at 5,000 a month,
yeah,
just on the $500. And, a lot of some of your listeners might be thinking, well, I don't have 5,500. Well, I just did a land deal with my mother-in-law. This parcel cost $40,000, and this one we actually mailed. So I'll tell you how we found it. We pulled a list in a certain county in Colorado where land was selling. That's how I pick my areas. I want to see land selling, and I want to see like a cluster pattern. Where do you find land sales at? You can go to to Redfin and Zillow, and kind of like sighting your weapon. You want to get a good pattern, good cluster pattern. Tighter the better. So I see where the land's selling at, and then I click on each one of those yellow dots, the Zillow Solds or Redfin,
mhm,
whichever you prefer. I click on each one of them, and I figure out two things: what the sold price is, and I'm only looking like in the last 30 days, and how big the parcel is. So sold price, how large the parcel is, and I'm going to write that down. Or maybe some people are in the spreadsheets. I like to just use old fashioned pen and paper. But what I'm going to do is, if I click on 10 of them, and 9 of them are 10,000 square foot parcels, and one is 3 acres, I know the most in demand lot size is 10,000 square foot.
mhm.
And then I'm also going to figure out the sold price, and that's going to tell me the price per square foot. So now I know what's in demand and what the land is selling for, what it's trading for. And I'm going to take the average of all 9 of those 10,000 square foot lots and figure out what the average price per square foot is. So once I figure that out, I now know what to offer. So I can go and pull a list on PropStream, a list of landowners in that area of Colorado for the specific deal I'm talking about, and mail all of them what I call the land offer letter. And I can give that letter. I'll give that letter for free if you go to the landsharks.com/LOL, as in land offer letter, or laugh out loud, whatever. Um, I'll email you that letter, but we're sending that specific offer saying, hey, we will pay you $40,000 for this couple acres of land. And that's how I figured out the price and what to offer. And I was getting it at roughly less than 50 cents on the dollar. And the letter came back about a year ago, signed. Her and her husband signed it. We sent it to the title company. There was some title issues, and it actually took us almost a year to close it, because once we finally worked through the title issues, God bless this woman's soul, her husband died. And
Oh
then we
dear.
had to go through probate. And then here's what's really cool. The title company figured out that there was a mobile home with water and septic and electric already on the lot line. So we thought it was only worth 90,000. Come to find out, it's worth like 140,000. And who's living in the mobile home? The son. And the son wants to buy it from us, and he's willing to pay 90,000, no problem. He'll pay the land value, no problem. So I borrowed $40,000 from my mother-in-law. So this is going back to, what if I don't have 5,500?
Mhm.
Well, I didn't have the 40,000 at the time. Borrow it from my mother-in-law, and please interrupt me, Kevin. I can't see you if you want to interject, but we borrowed the 40,000 from my mother-in-law at 9% interest. She's super happy. I'm her favorite son-in-law because I'm paying
Yeah.
her 9% interest on the 40 grand. It buys me points with my wife. My wife's happy. But here's what's really cool. That buyer, we're loaning him 90. I'm sorry, we've given him a note at 90,000 at 9% interest,
So you're
and he
taking the
actually paid
spread.
us. Yeah, exactly. The positive arbitrage. And he gave us $5,000 down. And we just did this deal last week, by the way. He gave us $5,000 down. So technically, he has a mortgage for $85,000 at 9%. So his payment is $926 a month. And I'm looking at my board because I broke this thing down. I wish we had video. And then we charge a $20 a month note service fee. So technically, I'm collecting $946 a month. And I pay my mother-in-law about $830 a month, and she's paid off in 5 years, 60 months. Well, we're lending to Bill, the buyer. His name is Bill.
Yeah.
And he is going to pay it off in 13 years. So my mother-in-law is paid off in 60 months, and the difference between 946 and 830 is $115 a month. So I'm not going to make a tremendous amount of money. So about $6,000 over that 60 months by keeping that difference. But what's really cool, when I pay my mother-in-law off, I'm going to keep that whole 946 a month, and that's like 90 grand for
Yeah.
96 months. So technically, I'm going to make about $101,000 on this one deal that I have none of my own money in.
Yeah. And that is this is where I love these conversations, these creative conversations. And I'm actually gonna, what I want to do, Brent, is break this down even more for folks to like have tactical and practical steps. But one thing that you mentioned is that you use PropStream. So just breaking this down, and I'm gonna walk this back. First, step one in this deal, you did what? You had to find a market to target, right? So you went on Zillow and you searched land in a certain area in Colorado that was selling, and you found your tight target group, right? You found, hey, I found that pretty much there are some lots there for 10,000 square foot that are selling, for X amount of dollars, and you average them together and you get an average price per square foot. Is that the general idea?
You got it.
Yep. Okay. So then, and this is where you go and bring in other software tools. So Zillow is free, right? Then you go into PropStream, and PropStream is not free. But if you're a listener of this podcast, we at ADPI have an exclusive partnership with PropStream, y'all. You can go to trial.propstreampro.com/ADPI. That's trial.propstreampro.com/ADPI. And you can get a 30-day free trial of PropStream Pro. Normally they only offer 7 days, but for ADPI they're doing 30 days. So
That's a sweet deal.
It's a sweet deal. That is a sweet deal because
That's
there's a
actually
lot.
the longest trial period I've ever heard for PropStream. So that's incredible.
Yeah, it took us months to work this deal out. So that's just another benefit of being part of the ADPI community. But anyway, so then you go on PropStream and you go and what, Brent? What are you looking for now that you kind of have this target area of where you want to buy land? This is where in PropStream you're filtering and you're creating your list. No.
Oh man. Okay. So I usually don't give this out, but since this is ADPI, Active Duty Passive Income Podcast, and my fellow veterans, military members are listening to this, I'm going to give you my secret filters when I'm pulling land in a certain area. So once I figure out what size parcel is in the most demand, and we figured it out on that example, just that example was 10,000
Right.
square foot. Well, this deal I just broke down was not a 10,000 square foot lot. Every area is going to be a little different. But here's the thing. You go into PropStream, you pick the property type, and I'm picking vacant land. And then I'm going to go to the lot size, and I'm going to put in the exact lot size that's selling in the most demand. Now that's going to be the first list. Eventually, I'm going to go back and pull those 1 acre lots and the 2 acre lots, but it just makes it so much easier to micro pull these lists. And when I say micro, is down to the square foot, like of what size. Like I'm going to pull 9,000 to 11,000 square foot size parcels because that's what's in the most demand. And
Right.
that's all the filters I'm using.
Because
here's the thing. Your competition is only mailing people that are out of state and have owned it for 10 years. Well, I'm working a land deal right now with one of my landsharks students, and she got this piece of land under contract in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 14 acres under contract, signed, sent it to me via text message for $105,000. Well, I'm looking at the low end comps. The cheapest we can sell this thing for is like $208,000, and the highest is about $488,000.
wow.
And you know what filter she used? Those exact filters I just told you.
So she's getting these. So Yeah, so that's amazing, Brent. So you use the filters. You got the vacant land. You got the demand that you want, and then it's going to spit out this list. PropStream will spit out this list, because you're searching an area and you're filtering. Okay, I want vacant land, which significantly reduces your search, and then I want vacant land between X foot and X foot, which is going to significantly reduce your search further, and you get this list. So then you're going and you're sending the letter. You're sending just an offer letter. Is that what it is?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sending a land offer letter, and if you're really on a tight budget, you can send these yourself. I highly recommend using a program called Pebble.
Pebble.
Do you have an awesome offer for your audience for Pebble? Because
I've never heard of them, but we can get on the horn
oh
and make one.
yes,
What
yeah,
is Pebble? Tell me
absolutely.
what Pebble is.
So Pebble, oh my gosh, it's my secret weapon. And they gave me an offer, but I'd rather you go and get an offer because the way you can get a 30-day free trial for PropStream, it's amazing. But Pebble will give you a $50 mail credit and a 14-day free trial.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so what I do is I upload that list from PropStream, and they have several different templates. You can put the land offer letter that I just offered. You can use other people's purchase agreements, and you can edit it to where it's specific to you. And when these people get this letter, you can take it straight to your title company. I'm in one state that I just hand the purchase agreement directly to my realtor. He pops it on the MLS, and we sell it to a retail buyer. I don't even have to buy the property. So that's what Pebble does. It can mail out like 5,000 letters in 3 minutes for me.
Wow. And these are physical letters.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a letter. It's really a purchase agreement is what it is.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, Kevin, I'd like to buy your land at 123 Main Street. I'll offer $105,000. Just sign this offer or this purchase agreement, and I should be able to close in 3 to 5 weeks. And here's the title company I use, and here's the offer acceptance deadline, and just like a purchase agreement, but it's one page. It's super simple. So when a 65-year-old half blind gentleman's looking at it, it's like, yeah, this is easy to read. I completely understand it. Looks like he wants to buy my 5 acres.
Yeah. 100%. So that is super interesting. So you're using Pebble, and they send that stuff out. And this is a whole nother thing, y'all. This is about software, and this is about this stuff isn't hard if you're intentional about it and you're learning about this kind of stuff. So, like, for the folks out there who are gonna, oh well, I have to go and get all these different softwares and it costs money and it's $50 here and $50 there. Well, yeah, but it's also like totally worth it. We're talking maybe, I mean, maybe $2,000 to get off the ground. Maybe I think that's probably way over, honestly. Like, not buying any land, just like getting your software situation set up. But you can go and make that back relatively quickly. Like, that's unheard of for
Well,
business.
you use your 30-day free trial at PropStream. You
Exactly.
can pull 10,000 records,
Yeah.
and I'll give the 14-day free trial and the $50 mail credit for Pebble. When you get your link, you're just going to replace mine. But it's the landsharks.com/CRM. That's a 14-day free trial and a $50 mail credit. You could be mailing tonight and
That's
get a
awesome.
deal. Now, granted, you might not get a deal in your first 1,000 letters. You might be like one of my students that took them 8,000 letters to get roughly a $60,000 net profit deal. And thank God he kept going with it. But I'm thinking about my first business I ever started, which was a lawn business when I was in high school. My
Mm-hmm.
mower cost like $3,000, and that was a
Mm-hmm.
piece of junk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talk about short-term rentals, and I started short-term rentals this year, and it was about $10,000 to $12,000 per short-term rental. Now I was making a ton of money, and I was paid off and stuff. But the point is that any new business venture, it typically it's going to cost a little bit of money up front. But if you understand, if you become educated, and you network with other people, and you listen to what Brent's talking about, and you take action, you can go and follow the ADPI triad, right? Learn, network, take action, and you can make serious money. And I love the combination of this passive income and the seller finance stuff. So, all right. So going back tactical and practical, you got Pebble, you got the letters, they're going out. And in Pebble, you're able to go and create and make your own you're making your own letterhead, and you're making it look nice, and you're putting all the information in there. How are you finding these title companies or all of this stuff? Because does the title company have to be in the state that you're targeting this land, or no?
Yeah, I mean, it does not have to. I use Fidelity Title for this last example I just gave. They're nationwide, but I really like choosing a title company in that county. And sometimes you might only have one, so you have no options. And sometimes there might be 100 if you're like Colorado Springs. And
Mm-hmm.
don't be like me. The first like 6 or 7 deals, and I was actually doing houses before I stumbled on land. The first 6 or 7 deals I sent to this one title company, none of them closed. I was spending so much money on mailing houses. My Amex was maxed out. My Capital One was maxed out. And come to find out, they actually fired that title rep. But here's what I learned. Here's what I teach my landshark students is don't just go on, just don't go on and just pick a investor friendly title agent by calling them and say, hey, are you investor friendly? And they say, yes. I want you to go and Google, let's just say your city is Colorado Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Sell my house fast, Colorado Springs, or sell my house cash, Fort Pierce, Florida, wherever you're at, and call the top 3 people on Google and say, hey, I'm
Who's your
just getting
title
started.
company? Yeah.
I'm in the military. I'm in your area. I was wondering if you can point me to a investor friendly title company, and you call 3 people, and they might all 3 tell you the same title company. They might all 3 tell you different title companies, but most people, 99.9% of people, are going to steer you in the absolute right direction. And here's the second question. Hey, I come across land deals, or I'm about to mail a ton of land. I come across land deals, or I come across house deals, or I come across bicycle
Mm-hmm.
deals, whatever you come across all the time. Would you be interested in, hearing about it? Because they might be looking for more deals, more than likely, if they're at the top of Google.
Yeah, like because you're most likely talking to an agent at this point, right? So
No, you're probably talking to a house buyer that does a lot of transactions, because you don't just get to the top of Google without doing a bunch of
that's true.
business.
Okay, no, that's a good point. So from that perspective, you're like what you're doing is you're kind of building your buyers list, right? Like you're going to get this land, and you're doing the hard work and putting in the sweat equity and finding it and targeting it and making the offer and lining up the title company and doing all this. But on the back end, in this initial conversation with the top 3 folks on Google, you're going and saying, "Hey, um, you might want to buy this land and develop on it."
Yeah,
You're kind
absolutely.
of
Hey,
planting that seed, if you will. So
what title company do you use? And yeah, maybe you'd be interested in hearing about these.
yeah. But, I just put a bunch of land under contract, or I'm doing this in this area, and is this something that you'd be interested in? Yeah, you never know. You never know where that conversation will go. So that's another incredible little nugget, Brent, that I love. So, all right, so you're calling these folks up. You got the title company. Does a realtor come into play here at all?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, for a long time, I did not use realtors. And because I was burnt on a couple, and I just was like, man, realtors don't know how to sell land. Well, here was where I was messing up. You remember how I talked about go on Zillow or Redfin and click on all the solds? Well, if you scroll down, once you click on it, you can see who it was listed by and who it was bought by. And if you pull out like your notepad or open Word, Microsoft Word, or Google Docs, and copy who it was listed by and paste it onto a Word doc, and then copy who it was bought by and paste it on a Word doc, after you do about 12 of those, you're probably going to start to see a pattern. Like Mary Smith is the land sales specialist out in this one particular neighborhood. That's who you want to use. That's who you want to call. Be like, hey, Mary, I'm about to get this piece of land under contract, or I'm looking in this area. I want to know what the average price per square foot, or I need to know what the 30-day get it done now sales price is for this address at 123 Main Street, because I've got it under contract. What's the fastest way I can sell this land? Where do I need to be priced at? And Mary's going to know, oh yeah, you're on A Street. Man, they only have septic and wells. So that's going to be about 15,000 less than B Street, because they have city sewer and city water.
Oh, that's interesting. And so that you're getting inside knowledge from the realtor.
Yeah, the land sales
And
specialist
and
realtor.
and y'all listen to this podcast. I'm doing it. I got another screen here, and I'm going on Zillow, and I'm looking in Colorado. I'm doing these things. It's so easy. It's so easy. Now, okay, let's talk about it. And not, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right?
That's true. It is a lot of
So
work. I will tell
it
you
is a
that.
lot of work. This is like, so Brent is making it sound very easy. I might be making it sound very easy, but let's talk about the fact that so you're talking with this realtor, and we're going back to the kind of the steps on how to do this. You're talking to the realtor. You're getting more information, so you're kind of on the phone here, and you're finding deals, and you're doing that. So there's work that goes into that. Let's say we get something under contract. So
Yeah.
a letter comes back, right? And it's signed, and it gets mailed back to wherever. I don't know if you. I'm sure by this point, when you were started, they were probably mailing them to your house, but I'm sure you got an office now, and they're acquisition
Yeah.
specialists and all of that stuff. But in the beginning, can you just have these things mailed back to your house, or what?
I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
I would recommend using like a PO box or a UPS box or a
A virtual
virtual
mailbox, like
mailbox.
anytime mailbox or something like that.
Yeah, because I'm really, really cautious. I never want anybody showing up to my house that's not invited.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like me.
it's funny because even when I got what's that? Even you,
Said
Kevin?
like me.
Yeah, I mean, between the hours of like 8 and 5, yeah, cool, come on over. But and here's the thing: you can send out free money, and you're eventually going to offend somebody. So you're going to get some haters. Like some people are going to call and like one of my students on the support call yesterday said that he mailed some guy in Louisiana, and he's like, "You think I just fell off the cucumber truck? I would never sell this piece of land for what you're offering, and like you definitely just offended me." And here's the thing: it's like you don't want people knowing your mailing address. Um, it's just to just spend the extra few bucks on use someone else's address and collect your mail there. I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, don't have them coming to your
Don't do that.
house.
But the point is, though, you go and the letters are coming back, and let's say you get one under contract, and if people are listening to this, they're like, oh, what kind of idiot would get it under contract for that price? It's not about the price. It's about the value that you're offering that person, and every seller sells for another reason, for a different reason. It doesn't matter. It
Yeah,
could be an inheritance, it could be this, it could be, who knows. So they sign it under contract, and you say you're going to close. In the letter, you say you're going to close in 2 to 5 weeks or something like that. Now we're in a whole nother phase of acquisition, and this is the same as real estate. We're in due diligence. So, firstly, you're under contract. First, you got to figure out, okay, how am I financing this thing? If you're the buyer, right? How am I going to finance this thing? And you can get as creative as you want here, but traditionally, Brent, you're going and buying this land. What does a first deal kind of look like from you
yeah,
or one of your students, as far as like the financing bid and the due diligence bid?
yeah. And there is no wrong answer. Here's the problem with land: there's too many options. So a lot of people just starting out will get this parcel under contract and assign their contract to a cash buyer or to that land specialist realtor. They'll call and say, "Hey, do you have any buyers that would be interested in this lot?" It looks like they usually sell for like 15,000. I've got this one under contract or I'm sorry, you can tell them what's under
Yeah.
contract. You can say, "I've got it under contract for 7,500. I'd let it go for 12,000. They usually go for 15. So that's one way. You can put it on Craigslist and Facebook. My dad still sells, like I've got my dad's done like 50 something land deals now. He still sells his land on Facebook, buy sell groups, and marketplace. He doesn't
Wow.
actually buy them. He gets it under contract, and then he signs his contract with another sheet of paper saying, basically, you're going to buy my contract on 123 Main Street. I've got it under contract for 10,000. You're going to pay 15,000. So I'm going to make an assignment fee of $5,000. And he takes it to the title company. The title company writes him his check whenever his buyer comes through and purchases it. The other way is you can buy this land. You can actually physically buy it with a partner or mother-in-law's money or maybe your own money.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's what I did in the beginning. Like, that first land deal, and I talked about it, I'm pretty sure, on the previous episode that I did, but that first land deal was only $285. I didn't have to go and borrow that money. I actually
Yeah.
had it in my account. But I needed it back quick, though. I was broke in 2016, brand new second lieutenant. I went from enlisted to officer, just moved across the country, just had a baby. So $285 was huge for me. So I wanted to have that buyer lined up ahead of time. And you know who I lined up was a realtor that I called. It was a real estate office I called really close to the land. and she ended up buying it for me for $5,000 the next
Wow.
day.
The next
Um,
day. So you closed on it, and the next day, boom,
Yeah, if
five
you
grand,
want to call it
$5,000.
that, like the seller
Wow.
brought me a quit claim deed.
Yep.
Basically, it was a. I don't recommend this, guys. I recommend using a title company and running title checks and searches. And it was sad. It's like I already own like 9 doors at this time. I had been buying rentals and stuff when I was in the
Mm-hmm.
military, and I wasn't even smart enough to run a title search on this property. I just got so excited that I was going to do my first land deal, and thank God everything worked out. But so I arranged it with that realtor to close on Wednesday, and I paid the seller on Tuesday. That way I can get my money back like the next day. So that's how that one worked. And then there's the seller financing method. You know, active ADPI podcast. We're talking about passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I love. So let's just say that I'm gonna I'm gonna get some. I'm trying to line this one up to where I can get seller financing, passive income coming in. So let's just say that I've got 5 grand. I'm gonna go and find an area where the land's worth anywhere from 20 to 25,000. So when I spend 5 grand, I'm gonna like 4x my money. So I'll buy that land for 5 grand, and then I'll list it on Facebook and Craigslist and landsentry.com, where your first land deal is $15 a month to post it out everywhere. I'll put signs out, I'll call, and I'll text the neighbors. I'll send the neighbors letters and say, hey, I'd love to sell you the piece of land next door to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd take $5,000 down and 500 a month for the next, I don't know, 84 months.
Yep.
And I'm going to turn that 5 grand into 20 or 25,000 and get payments coming in.
That's awesome. And I love that. And there's some intricacies that go involved in getting those contracts and getting the promissory note set up. But we're talking about hiring a lawyer, getting a draft. I'm sure with landsharks, you guys have templates of all of that stuff that folks can get if they want or whatever, or when they join your program or whatever. Like you can get that stuff. Is my point. It's not like the end of the world, but the whole concept is just genius because unlike real estate where you have toilets and tenants and chimneys and roofs and water heaters and air conditioning, like all of that stuff, like no, you don't have any of that. This is raw land. It's literally, we're talking parcel numbers here, people. Like that's what we're talking. So financing it is not as big of a deal as you can. And just to recap, we talked, the option one is not actually buying it, it's just wholesaling it, right? We're just talking a wholesale, take an assignment fee. Option two is buy it and line up a buyer to sell it, pretty much right away. Or option three is we're talking a seller finance. Now, from a tax perspective, Brent, the seller finance is probably friendly on your taxes because otherwise you're going to get hit with, I'd imagine, short-term capital gains, right?
Oh yeah. We have to do. It's called a raw land worksheet for each parcel. We have roughly, I think, 68 or so notes now for each one of those parcels. And by doing that, I only have to pay taxes on what I actually collect that
Right.
year.
Which is
What I
way
actually
better.
collected.
Exactly, which is way better. So you have, for math's sake, say you have 68 parcels right now, and they're each kicking off $500 a month. Just like I said, for math's sake, that's $34,000 a month. But you're saying you only have to pay taxes on that bit, as opposed to if you were going and selling the entire thing,
Yes.
you would get hit, you'd get nailed, a lot more. So that's something to consider as well. Now, bringing this conversation to due diligence, because it's land, it's not like you're getting an inspection on the property and you're like, oh man, there's termites in here, there's this in here, do this, do that. But I would imagine the most important part of due diligence is, honestly, it probably takes place in the beginning. And when you're looking at these deals and you're talking to that realtor and you're finding out, oh yeah, this side of the street is this and that side of the street is that, as far as water and sewer and utilities and all of that, because that adds value. But after getting it under contract and assuming that you're going to go through with the deal, um, and you're doing this due diligence, like, I mean, a title search, you got to make sure that the person who's selling you the land actually owns the land. Like that seems really important. What other things should people be looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure that there's road access. legal ingress and egress. You want to call the water company, even if there's not water ran to the lot, and just say, hey, can you please put this address or this schedule number or this APN number into your system? I just want to make sure there's no unpaid bills. Same thing with electric company. Is it in a wetlands area? I don't shy away from wetlands, by the way. I just get it for really, really cheap. But there's a buyer for every piece of this land.
Yeah, 100%. And it's crazy as far as accessibility goes, because when we talk about getting started in real estate investing, obviously people have, especially in their military, you have the VA loan, which we talk about a lot in house hacking, and that's how I did my first deal, which I'm getting ready to sell, and I'm super stoked about. But for this doesn't really have the traditional financing methods, but that just means there's that much less competition out there, but there's still land, and there's a lot of land in this country, and it's constantly changing hands for, just like real estate, a myriad of reasons. It does not matter. All that matters is that you do your research up front, just like you would on a real estate deal, right? Like we're talking about that cluster on Zillow, we're talking about price per square foot, or price per acre, or whatever, however it's measured. I don't know, square foot, right? Price per square foot, or is that real estate?
Yeah, no, you can totally price it out per square foot or per acre. It just depends what area you're in.
Yeah, what area? So you get your pricing, right, and then you go and you get your software system set up, and you start sending some mailers out. Obviously, you have your infrastructure in, so people aren't responding to your house; they're responding to you, to a PO box, or to a virtual mailbox, or who the heck knows, a business mailbox or something. And you're going and you're getting things under contract, and you're doing your due diligence. And then it's all about, okay, what's my exit strategy? Well, you have three. You got the wholesale, you got the buy and then sell, by simply having a strong buyers list in that same area, or you have the seller finance, which I think is a great way to build passive income. And you get that seller finance done, and that's an incredible way to work in the note space and not have to worry about toilets, tenants, any of that stuff. So have we hit on all the highlights here, kind of the practical tactical?
Yeah, you definitely did. And here's my goal is, you know, I have someone that helps me sell this stuff and I have someone that helps me buy it, but I keep it so simple. I just want to sell one of these a week for around 250 a month. So let's just say that I hit that goal this week, I hit it next week, I hit it the following week, I hit it 4 weeks straight. Well, now I have an additional $1,000 a month coming in. Well, I'm going to hit it again next month and the following month. Now I've hit it 3 months straight. So 4, 8, 12 weeks straight at $250 a month. So now I have an additional $3,000 a month coming in. I hit it for 10 months straight. Now I have $30,000 a month coming in. When you hit $12,000, $13,000 a month, which is totally doable. I hit it in 9 months. I was at $9,000 a month in the military, and it's powerful. And I can hear the questions in people's minds is like, well, how the heck were you buying all this? Well, I would buy one, seller finance it, and then I would get the next one under contract and assign that contract. I think I talked about this on that episode for the last episode for ADPI, but it was with a bank. It was like my fifth land deal, something like that. I kind of lose track now. So many years ago, but it was 44 acres next to Schriever Air Force Base, and I went back and forth for months. I was offering 20 grand for this land, and I thought it was worth somewhere around 100 grand. Why was I offering so little? Because I was scared. I didn't have 20 grand. I was like, I need to sign this contract. Well, they finally called me on a Friday, and I was actually the executive officer for a forward support company at this time for an infantry battalion. And they said, Brent, 25,000, do it today, sign it today, or don't ever call us again. So I signed it, and I didn't sleep that night because I was like, how am I going to come up 25 grand? They're going to sue me. I'm going to go to jail. I'm going to lose my security clearance. Like, I was just having just a worst night. Well, Saturday, I got up and I got to business. I got to work. I went out and I got 33 bandit signs, like yellow signs. You see them on the side of the road, we buy houses. And I wrote on the back of it and said, 44 acres, 38K, and then my phone number. And I went to the land and I put them out everywhere. Well, the first call, they were like, get this sign off my property, blah, blah. Well, the second call, I'm bracing for impact because I'm like, they're going to yell at me. And here's the thing, I had it under contract for $25,000 and I only put $38K on there. So what's the difference between 25 and 38? What is that? 6, 7, 8.
13K or something like that.
13,000. Yeah, $13,000. Well, the second phone call that I got, the guy goes, I'm driving around. We sold our ranch in Texas 2 weeks ago. We've been looking for raw land now for 2 weeks, and we see your signs popping up as we're going. Where are you at? So I told him where I was at. We met on the side of the road next to the land. We shook hands. He said, I'll take it. And the next day I was going to the field with the Army, and I got another phone call. And this guy offered me like $14,000 more than what I just shook hands with this Texan. And that was the hardest thing in my life. And I was like, man, that would have been life changing. I thought $14,000 was going to change my life at that time. Well, I called this Texan. I said, listen, I got a higher offer. He said, we shook hands. I said, I know, hold on. I said, how about we split $14,000? I'll give you $7,000 to walk away. And I was not under contract yet with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, I want the land. And I said, okay, gosh darn it. All right, it's yours. Well, we did the deal, and I haven't looked back since. But that $13,000 that I made, it allowed me to buy like 4 more properties that each one of those were like $2,500. And I sold those 4 more properties. Like if I bought it for $2,500, I was selling it for like $9,000 and $10,000. And that gave me additional seller financing. And that's how I got to that $9,000 a month in like 9 months.
Yeah. Let's talk now. I'm curious on this, and let's transition the conversation. And we are running a little short on time, but you already did the bonus round, and I'm super interested in this, so I'm not doing the bonus round with you again. So, we're talking, $2,500 here, $5,000 here. For someone maybe who sold an investment property, or they have a bigger amount of money to play with. Maybe they got, I don't know, $100,000, $200,000. Do the same principles kind of apply here, or is it a little different?
Same principles, but different as well, because I didn't have that money to start with. I didn't have the time. I was in debt. I just say be very cautious, with what you buy. You can buy a lot of land with $100,000. Just make sure it's the right buy box. I generally try and 3x the money. I learned that from Warren Buffett. So if I'm going to buy something for $3,000, I want it to be worth $9,000. And that's if I'm planning to sell or finance it. If I'm going to flip it, like for instance, I'm looking at this piece of land in Tennessee I told you about for about $105,000. I know we could sell it for $200,000. I'm fine with a 2x return if it's going to be over a couple months. But if I'm going to sell or finance it for like 6 years or 10 years or 30 years, I want to 3x my money. So just be very, pretend like you're investing that money for someone else. Just because you have it, don't just go out there and spend it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it all comes down to, just like anything, like I talked about earlier, it's the triad, right? It's learn, network, take action. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh, I would never get into this because I don't know how and all of this stuff. Well, yeah, duh. No one knows how. You just have to learn and get educated in this stuff. And Brent at Landsharks has obviously a ton of resources for you. We already talked about one. What other resources, Brent, can folks get if they just want to dip their toes in this and maybe just learn about it?
Yeah, I talk about it a lot on my YouTube channel. If you look me up on Brent Bowers, if you want to join the community, the Landsharks community, and have me hold your hand and show you the exact steps and the resources and the systems and the softwares and the filters, head on over to thelandsharks.com, fill out the form, schedule a call with me and my team. I'd be honored to have you into the community. I mean, the community is now doing land deals together. We're lending on deals. I've been acquiring funds from other people. These multiple deals I talked about are coming from, my competition that I'm creating. But here's the thing is we're doing deals together now, which is amazing.
Yeah. People in the community here understand the power of community because they're in ADPI. Maybe they're part of Military Real Estate Investing Academy or Military Short-Term Rental Academy or Military Multifamily Academy. We had our cohort calls last night, and it was just fabulous to see folks getting together and talking deep about their goals and what they're doing and scheduling calls with each other all in this cohort setting. It's just fantastic. So Brent, this has been absolutely incredible. I think we laid out so many practical and tactical steps for folks to get involved in in raw land deals. And at the end of the day, when it's structured correctly, this could be a very sustainable and relatively long lasting stream of passive income. And we talk about it all the time. What is the key to generational wealth? It's not winning the Mega Millions lottery, which I think is at like $1.3 billion today, because you got a better chance of getting struck by lightning 3 times in the same day than winning that. It's creating multiple streams of independent passive income. And raw land as a seller finance deal just sounds like a fantastic stream, relatively low barrier to entry. But the biggest barrier is education, and you have to learn about it. And that's going to give you the confidence to go and take action. So I love this because when you create these multiple streams, it kind of builds up into this river of cash flow. And you're talking about, Brent, in 9 months, you were up to what, $9,000 a month or something? What was it?
Yep, it was 9,000.
$9,000 a month coming in passively, right? It's land, so he's not like going out and fixing the toilets and stuff. And was all this land like directly right around you? Were you drive into this land everywhere, or
It was all within about a 2.5 hour radius. So I was driving to some of it, and then I got a little cocky and I didn't drive to some of it, and I made some mistakes. And I must put the disclaimer, it was work. I mean, there was a lot of mornings when I would get up at 4 a.m. I had to be on base at 6, and it was work. And it was a lot of nights checking out land, and I literally got lost in the woods. We can do that for episode 3. I got lost big time one time.
In the woods. Sounds like
big
me.
time. I threw the belts off my truck. It got stuck in the snow in Hartselle, Colorado. Nuts. Weekends, and luckily my wife was just willing to put up with this. And I said, look, I have a huge why. Like, one day I will not have to do this. I won't have to do this forever. And boy, I told her 5 years, and that 5-year mark came, and I was still gunning like I was on like a deployment, working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And she's like, hey, the 5 years was up like a couple months ago. And she called me out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. So, but at that time, you have the passive income streams coming in, and that's ultimately what it's all about. That gives you the freedom and the purchasing power. Guys, think about this passive income that's coming in, and you can use leverage and credit and debt and the whole US system to buy things that you've always wanted, and it's all being funded through streams of passive income. It's horizontal lines of income, right? Your vertical is where you trade your time for money. This is Brent is not trading his time for money from these seller finance deals that he's getting. The checks are just coming in.
That's so funny. I think about it that way now. We just had the dog groomed, and I asked my wife, I was like, well, how much did that cost? And she said $160. And I thought to myself, oh, that was I just spent one of my land payments on one of my desert lots. And now I think of it like that. So it's like, okay, what parcel of land just paid for that?
Yeah, exactly. And as long as you live relatively like not flying private jets everywhere and all of that, you can live a very comfortable life just on the passive income alone, or whatever else you're trying to do. But it gives you the time then. Imagine having the passive income coming in and you're at 9, 10, 12, 15, $20,000 a month. You don't have to be working a W-2 anymore. You can go and take that time that you've now recaptured and focus and get more passive income if you choose, or just donate your time or donate your money or donate yourself, or what, like, you can do whatever you want, and that's cool. Having that time freedom is everything that everyone listening to this podcast is chasing. And raw land might just be one of the ways that folks get there. So Brent Bowers, thank you so much for coming on again to the Active Duty Passive Income Podcast. We thoroughly enjoy this. I have taken copious amounts of notes, and I'm just super excited to have you on the show and call you a friend.
Truly an honor, Kevin. Thanks for having me back.
All right, guys. If you want to learn more about Brent, where can they go?
Just head on over to my YouTube channel, Brent Bowers. Hit me up on Instagram. I still respond to all my messages. IG, it's my handle is Brent L as in Lima Bowers, Brent L Bowers. And if you want to join the community, head on over to the landsharks.com, fill out the form, schedule a call, and I assure you, we will get you taking action very quickly. Mailing landowners and getting you there. And that's the main thing. If I can get you some revenue in the first 30 days, you won't look back.
That's incredible. I love that. All right. Thank you so much, Brent. This is awesome. I appreciate your time, dude.
My pleasure, Kevin.
All right. See ya.